Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight, or this morning or evening, wherever you are. We'll just wait a few more minutes as everybody filters in and to get started. Okay, got some progress. Okay, all right. My name is Julian, Thomas Julian. You just call me Julian. I am a partner with Holborn Assets. Holborn Assets is a global wealth firm, but we have Holborn Pass, which is the division of Holborn Assets that handles global citizen solutions, which is what we're going to speak about tonight. Um, I myself am a global citizen. I hold multiple passports. I have multiple residencies. This is a life that I live both personally and professionally every day of the year, every day of my life. So when I talk about these programs, I'm talking from personal experience, from professional experience. 50% of my clients are U.S. citizens looking to leverage these programs. Uh, the other half of my clients are global citizens who are either trying to go to the U.S. or trying to go to Europe. Because I live in Europe, I've lived in the United States half my life, I lived in Europe half my life. I am very well acquainted with both cultures. So I find myself very well fit for these programs. I specialize primarily with U.S. citizens moving out of the U.S. as well as people moving into the U.S., but Europe has become an area of expertise for me as well. So today we're going to answer a lot of the questions that I get commonly from all my clients about all these different programs, because for some people, they don't know anything about these, and for others, they have questions and they're in the middle of the process. So this is a good program for just about anybody. Holborn is, we're going to talk about this stuff. Holborn, as I said, is a global wealth management firm and financial services firm. It's been around since '98. It's a British family firm. 500 employees is actually a low number. We've expanded quite a bit now. We've got a little over 20 offices, actually, one in Portugal. We are the number one service for the Portugal Golden Visa. We've submitted the most applications, have the most approvals, and we do have exclusive investment opportunities for the Portugal Golden Visa that you simply cannot find with anyone else. So we are the number one Portugal agent. And like I said, I handle a lot of different programs and all the different programs, actually. Portugal is our specialty. I do a lot of work with the EB5 for people, for global HMWIs moving into the US. And this is the type of service. This is a snapshot of our service with the Portugal Golden Visa, just so you can see what it all entails. But this is the type of service you get with any program that we offer. And as it's everything from the very beginning to the submission of the application for citizenship in the end. You do for the EU Golden Visas. Just make a special note here for my U.S. clients. For the EU Golden Visas, we do need to open up a domestic bank account, whether it's Portugal, Greece, Latvia, wherever, and then you don't have to fund that account before you fund the investment. So if you're a U.S. client and you don't really want to get involved with the foreign bank accounts and all that, then I can help. We can do Caribbean and we can do the Malta citizenship. And the way I can work it is we don't need to open up a foreign bank account for those programs. For the EU Golden Visas, though, it will involve a foreign bank account and funding that foreign bank account. So just give you a heads up about that. So Golden Visas, also known as residency by investment. You put money in, you get residency out. Golden visas, primarily the EU programs are golden visas. I consider them the ultimate plan B and retirement plan, but they're not all the same. So it's important to understand that from the beginning. Golden visas, they can be temporary residency or they can be permanent residency. Some of them are paper residency, meaning you don't actually have to ever live in the country for anything. Some of them are actual residency, like Spain, which is closing next week, unfortunately. But Spain was an actual residency program. If you didn't move to Spain, you weren't able to go on to permanent residency or anything like that. Whereas Portugal is paper residency. Even if you never live in Portugal, you can become eligible for citizenship and get a Portuguese passport. So those are important facts that we have to talk about in our first consultation. The global residency is a regional mobility asset. For example, in Portugal, you can live in Portugal year round, and then you can do 90-day jumps to the rest of the EU, and then come back to Portugal on a 90-day jump. So they do provide regional mobility assets. The golden visas have no language requirements. We're going to talk a little bit about this more in depth later, but the programs themselves have no language requirements, and they may lead to citizenship. Now, what golden visas are not? They are not the same as citizenship. They do not guarantee citizenship. Citizenship could have language requirements, but the residency elements of golden visas do not. And golden visas are not tax residency. They're regular residency, but they are not tax residency. So getting the Portugal gold visa, for example, does not make you a tax resident in Portugal. If you want tax residency, that's another thing you need to tell me in the first consultation, because there's ways of getting it, but you're not going to be a tax resident by default. So that's very important to understand. Now, golden passports are the citizenship side of things, the citizenship by investment. And again, I call them the ultimate plan B, the ultimate retirement plan. It's fully encapsulated everything that you need there. A citizenship program does provide you the right to a passport. Now, to be clear, the program itself does not provide the passport. These are programs, these are expedited naturalization programs. You're going to get a certificate of naturalization, a certificate of citizenship at the end of these programs. The program stops there. What I do is you're a citizen now. I take you on and I get you the passport after that. The programs themselves do not convey passports. It doesn't matter what service you go to. The programs do not provide passports. That is a service that we go the extra mile and get you the passport afterwards. But once you're a citizen, you have all the rights of the citizenship of that country. So you have the right to live in the country, work, study, conduct business, and bank. Some citizenships, like Portugal, have residency rights in other countries. So once you do the Portugal golden visa, become a Portuguese citizen, then you can live in Finland, you can live in Saint-Tropez, you can live in Amalfi Coast, and wherever you want to live after that. But so those are things you want to understand as well. Again, passports are global mobility assets, whereas golden visas gave you that regional mobility. Passports are global mobility assets. And they're legacy assets as well. Not all of them, but most of them are legacy assets. They'll pass on for generations. And the most important thing is these things here are legal alternative identities. These are not the same person. I'm not the same person here as I am here, for example. These are legal alternative identities. You can bank with one, get married in the other one, bank in one, travel with. Very, very powerful assets to have, which are why these programs are so popular. What are these programs not? Okay, you're not buying a passport. Even I say that, buying a passport programs. I say that because that's just, that's the way we say it. But you're not buying a passport. You're investing in a legitimate investment opportunity, gaining citizenship, and then from the citizenship, I'll go on and get you the passport. As with residency programs, these are not tax residencies. I should clarify, the US programs and the Canadian programs do convey tax residency because you do have to go live in the US and Canada. But otherwise, these programs are not tax residency. So if you do, let's say, the St. Kitts Passport program, the St. Kitts program, you're not going to be a tax resident of St. Kitts. Again, if you want tax residency, we can do that, but there's things that have to be done. You're not going to be tax residents by default. And again, this goes with the buying the passport idea. There's no bypassing security here. If you would be denied it, and then if you would be denied a visa, you're not getting through any of these programs. These are not, a circumventing security. In fact, the security applications of these programs are far more involved than any other visa, than any other naturalization program there is. So just bear in mind that you're not going to be bypassing or buying your way through or anything like that. These are nothing like that. These are just what your money is getting you is a faster process, an expedited process. And again, for these passport programs, there's no language requirements. So if you lived in a country and went through the naturalization process and went to citizenship, you'd have to have a passport. you'd have to have a language requirement for that passport. But if that same country offered one of these programs, you don't have a language requirement. So that's the benefit. That's what your money's getting you. Expedited processing to that passport quicker without those kinds of requirements. And again, usually most programs, they're legacy assets, but not all of them. And if that's an issue we can talk about in the first consultation as well. So overall, what are the requirements? Every program's different. They're all unique to the government that builds them, but there are a few things that are common through all of them. For one, the main applicant has to always be at least, and has to be an adult, always at least 18 years of age. You have to satisfy an approved investment. Obviously, the money's got to be legal, legally possessed, legally acquired. The money can't be involved in drugs or anything at any point. So, if your uncle's Pablo Escobar and he gives you $1 million, that's going to be a problem. Okay, think like that. The money always has to be legal, and the money has to be legally yours to spend. Health insurance is another requirement. You usually have to take out a health insurance policy for every dependent, every applicant on the application. There are some restricted nationalities depending on the program, so that's something we can discuss in a consultation. The programs do not all of them, like the Caribbean programs, we can do those pretty much 100% remote, but like the Golden Visa programs, this is something that U.S. citizens aren't really aware of. Everybody else knows this or something, but like my EU passport, when I get this passport, when I go to renew this passport, it's directly connected to my fingerprint. I have to submit fingerprints to get my national ID card, to get my passport. So you don't do that in the United States, but everywhere else you have to do that. So when you're doing a golden visa program, like Portugal, Greece, doesn't matter, you do have to visit the country to submit your biometrics for the residency cards or passports, whatever. And that's what that says right there, in-person biometrics. Now, the common document list that goes with these programs, again, this is going to change by whatever investment program, whatever investment route you take in your family, your particular situation will alter this list. But universally, we're going to need passports. I need a physical address for the main applicant, birth, marriage records, should they be applicable, criminal background checks. Some programs, everybody, some programs, just the main applicant, some programs, everybody over 16, everybody over 18. Again, it depends. Health insurance, as we mentioned, and SOF, that's source of funds. Like we said, they're going to be looking into the funds, so it can't be connected to anything illegal. Now, who can be on the application? As we said, the main applicant has to be at least 18 years of age. Then the main applicant is like the hub. Everybody has to be connected to the main applicant. So the main applicant is who the investment's going to be in. They have to have the money. The bank accounts have to be in their names. The main applicant is who genuinely, best case scenario, I should be speaking with from the very beginning. Because once you reach out to me, I create a client profile for you. And so, like, if one spouse is doing the research for the whole family, then that spouse should genuinely be the spouse that's going to be the main applicant, because that's who I'm going to have down on my records as the client and that sort of thing. So the main applicant is the important dependent, the important applicant, because everything is going to revolve around them. Now, all the programs offer different opportunities for who you can add as an applicant, as a dependent. Universally, all the programs will allow the main applicant, the legally married opposite sex spouse of the main applicant, and that it means exactly what it says. Think 1960s family structure here, and children under 18. Okay, that is all of them. Okay, now, not everybody fits into that structure anymore. This is 2025. Some programs are more advanced than that, and they allow partners, unmarried partners, same-sex spouse, same-sex partner, children over 18, your parents, your grandparents, and even unmarried siblings on some of them. So, for example, Portugal will allow same-sex marriages, will allow a parent, will allow children over 18 if they're dependent or in college, things like that. There's only two programs that allow siblings. That's Grenada and Antigua. So if the main applicant wants to add a brother that's unmarried, it's possible for those programs, but only those programs. And so how long does it take? I get this question a lot, and it depends upon when you apply It depends upon what program you're applying. Because backlogs can happen, a rush can happen, something can happen. Like I said, Spain is closing its doors. The Golden Visa is closing next week. Now, they just announced this officially a few months ago. So boom, of course, that creates a backlog. That creates, and that's going to make those applications where they were sitting at 6 months, they could go a year and a half now in Spain because of that rush. So these programs are very susceptible to change on the government end. Just as an example, these things elections can happen, and suddenly the government can be talking about, well, we'll terminate the visa. That creates a rush, you know. So even though it's just being talked about, people want to get in. So the demand in the backlog genuinely affects these application timeframes because the application basically goes through 3 cycles. It's the due diligence on the money, due diligence on the applicants, and verifying that you did the actual investment. But right now, as it stands, March 22nd or March 26th, 2025, the current average times for the EU are 1 to 2 years. Latvia being the fastest at 3 months, Portugal in around the 9 to 12 month frame. The US, depending upon the program and depending upon the investment, is 9 months to 3 years. Canada, 1 to 2 years. UAE, very streamlined real estate program, 1 to 3 months. Caribbean, again, depends upon the country and the investment you choose. That can be 8 to 18 months. Turkey, 4 to 8 months. That's a real estate investment. And bear in mind, like for Turkey, that starts after you figure out which property you want to buy. So if it takes you a year to determine what property you want to buy, then we start the process after that. So if the process changes while you're buying, if the program changes while you're deciding to buy the property, you're going to get the application submitted, not the one we talked about at the beginning, which is why you genuinely want to move as fast as you're comfortable moving with these things, because things can change. As far as the overall cost for these programs, this is impossible to answer because some programs, it doesn't matter whether you're one person or a family of 12, the price stays the same. The EB5 in the US is like that. Other programs, pretty much all of them, when you start adding dependents, spouse, children, the price goes up. So it really depends upon your situation and it depends upon the program you're getting in because there's 3 cost essentials to these. First is a service like this. We have costs and fees that are associated with us. The second is the investment. If you've done any kind of research online, you'll see Greece Gold Visa from 250 euros. When you see that from 250 euros, from 800,000, whatever it is, when you see that number, that's the second number, the investment. And that's the bottom, the minimum. It's going to go up from there. But that's only referencing the second element of finance. All right. The second element of money here, the investment. The service and the program are all going to be in addition to that. And the program does have its own fees, application fees, dependence fees. You have to pay for the residency cards, things like that. And like I said, the more dependents you have on some programs, that raises the price. So the cheapest program that's available right now is the US EB3, which is a work visa style program. It's a green card. It takes about 3 years to get approved. One person, about $50,000. But other programs, you can easily go into the million, like the Malta citizenship program with a large family, easily $1 million. So it just depends upon your situation and it depends upon the program you're in. There's no real way to answer this question for everyone. And as I said before, I get this all the time. Do I need to learn the language? The answer to that is no. These programs do not have any language requirement. So the golden visas, as long as you're a golden visa resident, as long as you're in the golden visa program, there's no language requirement. That goes for even the US. If you are an EB5 guy and you move to the US on the EB5, there's no language requirement. Portugal golden visa, no language requirement. However, you have to think long term. So, for example, US EB5, you can become a citizen after 5 years, you need to learn English. Okay, there's an English language requirement for citizenship, not the golden visa. Portugal, after 5 years, you can become a Portuguese citizen, but there's a Portuguese language requirement. Now, you don't have to sit across the desk from a Portuguese official and have a conversation with them. We just have to attach a certificate, a language certificate, to the citizenship process. And I provide my clients a link to a language school that has been, my previous clients have told me it's been very, very helpful for them. And they've all been able to satisfy the requirement using that school. But you're free to use whatever school you want to do. I just gave it to you as a, just to give you something, an idea of what you can use. But you're not required to use that. But the programs, no language requirement, but you have to have your long-term goals in mind, because the long-term goals that can bring language requirement. And do you need to live in the country? This again depends upon the program that you are choosing. The US programs, yes, you need to live in the US. Canada, yes, you need to move to Canada and live in Canada. Portugal, no. You never need to enter Portugal. You never need to live in Portugal. You do have to visit Portugal 7 days a year, and you have to visit Portugal initially to do the biometrics. But you never have to live in Portugal to keep the golden visa, and you never have to live in Portugal to become a citizen and get the passport. Okay. Now, for example, the Portugal golden visa, those residency cards are 2 years in length. So every 2 years, you need to visit Portugal to renew the cards. And those renewal are added charge that you have to pay at the time. The initial cards we add to the quote and is involved in the pricing and all that. So that's included. But the renewal periods, you have to visit Portugal for those renewals, and that's an added fee. You have to pay for those renewals each time you go there. Now, Portugal, you have to visit 7 days a year or 14 days each renewal cycle. Okay. But some programs, like the Caribbean programs, are fully remote and you never have to visit the country. So it just depends upon the program you're in, and that will determine whether you have to actually visit the country and how often or if ever. But none of the programs except the US and Canada require you to actually move to the country. Now, ETIAS and EES. This is important for the golden visas in Europe to understand, because, the right to the traveling is not a luxury. Traveling in movement is a right. It's a human right. And like all rights, governments are hell-bent on restricting them or eliminating. And the way they attack the freedom of movement, the way they attack the right to travel, is shutting down visa-free entry, which is what a lot of countries are doing now. The UK started doing it this year. They implemented their UK ETA, which is shut off visa-free entry to everybody except EU citizens. EU citizens will be shut off come April next month. So everybody will be denied visa-free entry to UK starting next month. The EU is following suit, and they're implementing their e-visa program, which is called ETIAS. And that's going to be online next year, end of next year. It's mandated to be online by end of next year. And along with the ETIAS is going to be another program called EES. Now, this is called entry-exit system. It is separate from ETIAS. So everyone who needs a Schengen visa right now, you will always need a Schengen visa. Everyone who doesn't need a Schengen visa right now, you will require ETIAS e-visa approval. Okay, those are the differences. Everybody, though, both visa holders and ETIAS holders will have to submit to EES. And what this is once you arrive at the EU border, everyone, including children of all ages, will have to submit facial scans and fingerprints to enter the EU. Then when you depart the EU, wherever you leave the EU, doesn't have to be the same place, you'll submit these same scans again. The computer system will automatically determine whether the two sets of scans are 90 days or less apart, or more than 90 days. Now, if they're 90 days or less, you'll just be on your way as another victim of privacy invasion. But if they're more than 90 days, then some individuals in some olive drab garb will come out and escort you to a small room where you'll all sit down and talk about your criminality and the consequences thereof. What's important about this is if you are a Portugal golden visa holder, none of this matters to you. If you are an EU golden visa holder, you're exempt from all of this. If you do the Portugal golden visa, you do not have to submit to ETIAS. You do not have to do EES. The exception to this is Cyprus. The Cyprus Golden Visa will provide ETIS exemption. It will not provide EES exemption until it joins the Schengen, which is supposed to be this year, but we'll see. So if you have the Portugal Golden Visa, you will be exempt from ETIS and you will be exempt from EES. Okay, and you won't have to submit to those things. You can come at will. Also, the Malta Passport program will exempt you from these also, because that's the system. That's how it's set up. But if you do not have a golden visa, then you will have submitted these. There's something important you have to keep in mind about timing here. Like I said before, for example, the Portugal Golden Visa, you have to come to Portugal to submit your biometrics. So if between when you submit your Portugal Golden Visa, or when we submit the application and your biometrics appointment, if ETIS is implemented in the middle there, then you will require ETIAS approval to make that biometrics appointment. It's a brand new system. So if ETIAS system denies you because of a glitch or a bug, you're not going to make that appointment, and that's a problem. So it's best to get this all done before ETIS is implemented, because ETIS could screw up the whole system for you, because it is a brand new system that has not yet been tested. Something to keep in mind. EES will be launched October of this year. ETIS, they want it launched 6 months after, but it's got to be online by the end of next year. So if you've done any kind of research out there into these programs, you're going to see all this different, well, these are the investment options and all that. That's how the program's built. That's how the legislatures pass the program. They include all these things. That's not how it manifests in real life. Okay, so I'll get people that call me and say, I want to do the Portugal Golden Visa. I'm going to build a company. No, it doesn't work like that in real life. These options are put here to get the bills passed, and so that they don't have to come back every year and update it. So they keep it general. But the way it manifests in real life, the way it becomes sellable, the way it becomes profitable, the way it becomes actionable, and the way it becomes accessible is different than how it's worded in the laws, because that's just the reality of the situation. So if you look up Portugal Golden Visa, for example, you're going to see things like this: creation of 10 jobs, venture capital fund, that kind of stuff. But at the end, I'm going to show you how that actually plays out in real life. But this is not how it's actually going to be the way it was written. But to give you an idea of what investment options out there, each program is different again. So, for example, real estate. Real estate still exists for some programs. Greece Golden Visa, Cyprus Golden Visa, UAE Golden Visa, Turkey Passport Program. They're all have real estate options. Shares, capital shares in companies. Portugal, very popular. Hungary and Latvia also. Donation. Some programs just allow you to give money to the government. The Caribbean programs, this is like the major thing for the Caribbean programs. Malta and Vanuatu do this. Hotel shares. Caribbean programs are kind of historic for this. The Caribbean programs offer hotel shares. Projects. Again, Portugal, the US, EB5, and I added Canada here because Canada is kind of like a startup visa. You have to build a company for you and that kind of thing. And we handle it all, but it's kind of like a project, so I put it here because it's sort of built that way. Now, some programs do have financing options. We can offer to connect you with financing for Portugal, for the US. I put the UAE here because of the real estate element. Some of the developers in the UAE, they offer like a 50 down, 50 later kind of payment system. It's very, very relative to the actual developer and the property that you're buying. But I put it here because it is available. But again, the best option is the one that you're most comfortable making to get the residency or the passport you're seeking. And obviously, and ideally, the one you're most comfortable making in the fastest time. Because again, if the program changes, you get the program the application submitted into, not the one we talked about. Always remember that. So, which program is best? That's what I just said. It's very, very important to keep this in perspective. These are immigration programs. Immigration programs. Your primary ROI is residency, citizenship, and a passport. That is where your mind has to be. That's the primary ROI. That's not the cherry on it. That is why you're doing these programs. Okay. Everything else is the cherry. Okay. But you're doing this for the residency, the passport, the citizenship. So that's your primary ROI. Now, the best investment is the one you are happiest making, you're most comfortable making to get to that point, to get that residency, to get that passport. And like I said, as fast as you're willing to make. We will never rush you. I will never rush you. If it takes you a year, it takes you a year. If, that's how it is. Just bear in mind, these programs change and they're very vulnerable to change. Over the last 18 months, the Caribbean price has doubled, the Greek price has tripled, Spain is closing next week, projects have limited availability, Portugal lost its real estate. It was actually facing termination, but then they kept the Portugal Golden Visa and just lost the real estate option. So it's very important to know that because, for example, if I spoke to you in January 2023 about Portugal and it was a real estate option and you like that idea, we're going to buy real estate, and it took you 12 months to find the perfect property to buy, then we're in December 2023. I can't help you now. Real estate's no longer allowed in the Portugal Golden Visa deck. You have to, the program as it exists at the time we're going to submit, that's what's important. So you can take as long as you want, but just bear in mind, things can change. And the longer you take, you're going to get the program that you're applying into, not the one we originally talked about when you're taking that kind of time. So very important to remember that. So hotel shares, we talked about this a minute ago about the Caribbean hotel shares, because I get people who they want the second passport. St. Kitts is the strongest passport, the second strongest passport you can acquire through investment in the world. Okay, Malta is the number one passport. Malta is the crown jewel program. St. Kitts is the gold standard. I like to say that. St. Kitts is the second most powerful passport you can acquire through investment. But some people they don't like the idea of just giving the St. Kitts government $250,000. So there's other options you can do. A lot of the Caribbean program, well, all the Caribbean programs have hotel shares, but the hotel shares, the investor says, well, that's a tangible asset. They're going to pay me dividends. That's what they say. Yeah. It's very rare that these hotel shares actually, sometimes the project doesn't even get fully built, and very rarely do they pay out dividends. There's only two programs in the Caribbean, two investment opportunities that have already proven historically to be paying dividends at. And we're going to talk about them at the end. But otherwise, always just consider this, just understand that it's rare that they pay out the dividends. And they tell you they have an exit strategy. They tell you can sell the hotel shares. And it's true, you are allowed to sell them. That's true, you are allowed to sell them. But all I ever tell clients is just remember, would you buy these hotel shares if the passport wasn't included? So as far as an exit strategy goes for these hotel shares, just expect to own the hotel shares forever, because realistically, it's very, very difficult to sell them on, pass them on to another buyer. But you are allowed. You are allowed, once the hold period expires, you are allowed to sell the hotel shares once the hold period expires. And do you get free stays? Some of these hotel shares do provide free stays. I can say this: the hotels that actually do open and offer the free stays, they have been pretty good about giving you the free stays. They don't all offer free stays, but the ones that do open and offer the stays, they've been pretty good about that. So I will say that. Okay, so can you use a loan to pay for these programs? Absolutely. You can use any legal source of money. Any legal money you can use. But I cannot help you get the loan. You need to get the loan yourself. Okay. So if you have a piece of land that's worth $1 million and you go to the bank and say, I want an $800,000 personal loan, they give it to you. Give me a call. We can use that 800,000. We can use that money. Absolutely. But you need to secure the loan. There's only a couple of exceptions that I can help you get financed. Okay. And that's these exceptions right here. The Portugal Golden Visa. We have two options in the Portugal Golden Visa. We have a hospitality project development options with the Navigator, which is one of the largest hospitality companies in Portugal. I'll explain one of these projects later at the end, but there's the opportunity to get a 74,000 euro loan, and there's the opportunity to get a 5 or 50,000 euro loan. Okay. And there is a full loan available with Portugal, a full 500,000 euro loan that we can help you with. You wind up paying 168,000 to cover all the insurance, all the interest, all the fees, all that kind of stuff. You pay that up front. You get a non-repayable €500,000 loan, and then you can do the visa that way, and you just walk away at that. You don't have to repay the 500,000. It's a very interesting program. If you're interested in that, set up a consultation with me. I can tell you about that. And the second program that we can offer to help you get financing with is the EB5. Two projects in the EB5. We have an energy sector project that we like to work with, and that's 400 down. As you know, the EB5 is an $800,000 investment. So it's 400 down, and then the other 400 you make in two payments over the following months. Okay, that's the energy sector project. We do have an entertainment sector project, which is becoming very, very popular, and it's 400 down, and then we can connect you with a loan for 400. The loan is over 5 years. It can be repaid in full at any time with no penalty. I can supply you the full 60-month payment schedule if you're interested in that. It's becoming very, very popular. And now, of course, you can pay the full 800 for these same programs up front, but this is the options of financing that we can connect you with in these two programs. So, but this is it. US EB5, not the US EB3, only the US EB5, and these two options in Portugal, only these two options. There's no financing available for any funds. But also bear in mind that any service provider that tells you you can only do a fund for the Portugal Golden Visa, that is wrong. It's only because that's all they have access to. We can put you in touch with the other non-funds, okay, for the Portugal Golden Visa, because the law allows that, and we have the ability to do that. So, best healthcare. Now, especially for retirees, because like I said earlier, I sell these as the best ultimate retirement plan. And healthcare is important to families and retirees. So I always get asked which program country has the best healthcare. Difficult to answer this question. So this is the chart that I use. This is the ranking that I use because many, many, many large multinational corporations, their HR department uses this chart for their expats. So I use this one, CEO World Magazine. As you can see, for 2024, Canada was ranked 4th, the United States was ranked 15th, the UAE 17th, and Portugal 20th. These are the only 4 program countries in the top 20 for best healthcare. This little thing down here, healthcare index, I just copied and pasted that from the index. That's how they create this index. That's not me. That's just how they put that there. So I put it there for you to see. But what I do want to note is of these 4 program countries, Portugal is the only one that gives you access to many more. Because once you in year 5 switch to Portugal citizenship and you go through that process, you can then access Sweden, Ireland, Netherlands, Germany, Norway. You can access all of those EU countries and their healthcare systems as well. So that gives Portugal a step up in my book because it's not just the fact that Portugal ranks at the 20th in the top 20, but you can access other ones as well. But again, there's 4 program countries on this list. Now, best education may not apply to everybody, like retirees, they don't really care about this. But I talk to a lot of families and they do care about this. I will cite this ranking from the OECD because the OECD is all the developed countries in the world and all the program countries. So it's a very, very good indicator of comparing the program countries to each other and the program countries to the developed world. So I will cite this, but I will also give the disclaimer that the problem with these rankings is they rely a lot on the public education system. And honestly, 99% of my clients are not using the public education system. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the OECD ranking, top 20, only one country is ranked in the top 20 for education, and that's Portugal. Again, Spain is no longer a program country. They're shutting the program down next. But again, Portugal is 18th, only program country in the top 20. But I do want to remind you, once you get Portuguese citizenship, Netherlands, Finland, Belgium, Slovenia, Norway, all of those education systems are now accessible to you as well. 13 of the top 20 you can access through the Portugal Golden Visa. Now, like I said, these rankings tend to be heavy on the public school system. My clients use things like Spears. Spears is the Spears 500 is the top ranking private education ranking in the world. Okay, and they do a top 100 schools, and this is the kind of education ranking that my clients tend to consider. And of the top 100 Spear schools, 20 are in Europe. Obviously, 10 are in Switzerland because Switzerland is the crown jewel of education. So, of the 20 in Europe, 10 are in Switzerland, 10 are outside of Switzerland. Of those 10, Portugal is at the top. So, Portugal has St. Julian's School, as you can see here. I'm not promoting St. Julian's, I'm just simply showing you that the Spears 100 top schools does include Portugal. This little review right here is from the Spears page. It's not me. I didn't write this. I just copied and pasted. But I find it very, very interesting that Spears is connecting with its own clientele and telling them about the importance of Portugal. And as you can see, the location here for St. Julian's is quite impressive as well. But again, this is just outside Portugal or just outside Lisbon. US clients would say this is K through high school, kids all the way up to graduation. Small school, only 1,250 pupils, but it is a top 100 and it's one of the top 10 of Spears in Europe. Quality of life. Always ask this question, quality of life. Where's the best quality of life? If you've been watching the news this year, you've seen Greece has been, well, Greece always goes off. Greece always has very violent riots in Athens. And they've also, you've seen Santorini's been evacuated because of the earthquakes. Greece is a very, very active earthquake zone, about 25,000 earthquakes a year in Greece. So I always get asked quality of life. Very difficult question to answer because everybody's lifestyle is different. You know, the quality of life for a millennial in Lisbon or in Rome or in Berlin is different than somebody who wants to live in the coast of Saint-Tropez or on the Amalfi Coast or somewhere like that. So quality of life is difficult to answer, but this is what I do. So just to give you an idea, Internations is one of the top expat organizations in the world. They come out with their own little uh, quality of life index every year, but it's not in my opinion, it's not the best because it only ranks 53 countries. But in that light, you can see that their overall quality of life index has two program countries. I highlight Portugal because Portugal is the most flexible and it satisfies the most solutions. The UAE is 3, but for a lot of Western families, especially US and British families, the UAE is not genuinely an option because of the lifestyle issues. But the UAE does rank 3. I do want to point that out. It is a program country. For safety and security, there's no doubt the UAE ranks on this one, as well as, again, Portugal. Out of the top 10, UAE and Portugal. And environment, climate, think beaches. Again, top 10, Portugal, number 5. Now, again, Spain's not a program country anymore, but it is there. I'll just mention that because I love Spain. But this is the ranking I do cite for my clients because it is one of the more, or should we say, one of the most reputable rankings for quality of life. It's one of the most universally cited ones, and it does top 20 because there's so much involved. It does the top 20, and as you can see in the U.S. News and World Report top 20, there's only 2 program countries. Canada ranks 5th, Portugal ranks 20th. Now, I do want to mention that Portugal is the number 1 option for LGBTQ families. But what I also want to mention is while Canada does rank 5th for quality of life, when you do Canada, you can only live in Canada. Again, I always want to highlight this. The Portugal Golden Visa is a gateway to the EU. So once you acquire Portugal citizenship, you can live in number 1, Denmark, number 2, Sweden, number 3, Switzerland, number 4, Norway, number 6, Finland, and on and on. 15 of the top 20 quality of life rankings those countries are open to you as a Portuguese citizen. So the Portugal Golden Visa is a gateway to 15 of the top 20 highest quality of life countries in the world. And this little excerpt here of US News, the quality of life subreddit, that is copy and pasted from their website. That's how they determine these rankings. Another question I get asked a lot, well, actually every single client asks, safest country. What is the safest program country to live in? And I use the Global Peace Index 2024 because it considers all the developed countries, it considers all the program countries, and it ranks them accordingly. And it uses this ranking here, again, copy and pasted from the website. Social safety and security, that's walking the streets at night. Ongoing domestic international conflict, that's civil war, civil unrest, and war. And militarization, these include things like, conscription laws. Do not think that just because a country offers citizenship or residency by investment, it does not have conscription laws. They do. Turkey, mandatory military duty, 18 and older. Greece, mandatory military duty, 17 and older. So these are countries that do have conscription laws. So those are things you do want to understand when you're considering where to move your family to. Portugal is the safest program country in the world. In fact, it's the safest overall country, number 7. Okay, the 7th safest country overall in the world. It is the 5th safest country in Europe. It is the number 1 ranked safest country of program countries. This is the 2024 ranking. As you can see, Portugal is 7th, and I do again want to highlight, because Portugal is the gateway, your gateway to the EU, I do want to highlight Iceland, Ireland, Austria, Switzerland, all of them accessible through the gateway, through the Portugal Golden Visa. So Portugal is 7th in the world, number 1 program country, 7th in the world, 5th in Europe. Okay, and as all the golden visas, as most of the golden visas tend to be U.S. European golden visas, you can see Cyprus is ranked at the bottom, Turkey is ranked at the bottom, Greece is ranked at the bottom, but at the top you have Portugal, and then after Portugal you have Hungary, which is, I find interesting, to be honest with you. I've lived in Hungary, I've lived in Budapest. It is a safe country. I find it interesting to be above Spain, but Portugal is the number 1 safest program country, 7th safest country in the world, 5th safest country in Europe. But I always want to highlight Portugal Golden Visa is the gateway to the EU, so you can live in the safest country in the world, Iceland, or Ireland, the 2nd safest, or Austria, the 3rd safest. But again, this is the Global Peace Index. If you ask me which is the safest country, this is the ranking I'm going to use. So this is also the question, because I work in the industry. Again, I'm a global citizen. I work in the industry. I always get asked, what is the best program? Cannot answer that question for you. I can help you find the answer, and we can do that in the first consultation, but I cannot answer it for you, because it comes down to, why do you need these programs? These, my friends, are power. This is power. Marry in one, bank in one, travel in one. These are power. And so we have to determine, why do you need this power? Why do you want this power? Do you want residency? Do you want citizenship? Do you want residency that leads to citizenship? Do you want to avoid living in the country but still get to citizenship? Language requirements. Do you want to get a passport without language requirements? Do you intend to actually relocate your family to this country? Like I said, if you've been watching the news with Greece, Athens is on fire. They have very violent riots in Athens. This is a consideration. If you're retiring, where do you want to retire? Do you want to retire on the beach? Do you want to retire urban in the mountains or whatever? Why do you need this? Do you plan on actually living there? Are you looking for living in the country, banking in the country, retiring, studying, business? What are you looking to do with this? Again, does your plan B, does your family have LGBTQ plus concerns and issues? Okay, that family structure issue. Again, not all programs are built for that. Portugal is the number 1 program for LGBTQ plus Malta citizenship program. #1 program, citizenship program for LGBTQ plus families. Do you need to access top-notch education? Retirees don't care about this, families do. Um, Top-notch medical facilities, retirees do care about this, as do families. But also, I want to mention, like for the EU programs, in some countries you get a presidential election happens, you get a Supreme Court ruling that happens, and suddenly access to medical procedures, medical access rights become changed for certain members of the population. These programs can restore those medical access rights. These programs can provide you direct access to those medical procedures. Portugal does it, Malta does it, all the EU Gold Visa programs do it. So if that's something that's of interest to you, we need to talk about that in the first consultation. Again, lifestyle. What are you looking for? Portugal is a coastal country. It is an Atlantic coastal country, whereas Greece, Cyprus, Malta, these are Mediterranean coastlines. Some people believe, I'm not going to get into this argument, some people believe the Atlantic is a little bit colder than the Mediterranean. I summer in Spain, so I spend my summers in Spain. That's the Mediterranean. The water is beautiful there, I can tell you that. Right next door is Portugal, but you do leave the Mediterranean and go to the Atlantic when you cross that border. But once you get Portuguese citizenship, you're welcome to come to Spain and enjoy the Mediterranean with me. Now, as we stated earlier, is the whole military duty, the conscription issue, is that relevant to you? Let me know in the first consultation. Because again, Turkey, conscription laws, Greece, conscription laws. Does your golden visa need to recognize a non-traditional, you're not a 1960s families, right? This is 2025. You're not a 1960s family, but does the application respect that? Portugal does. Portugal will allow you to add a spouse that's not married, a partner of the same sex, children over 18 if they're in college. You can add your parents to Portugal. Portugal is very, very, very flexible on those things. Again, if you have to have a sibling, if the main applicant wants to add an unmarried brother or an unmarried sister, then we're down to Antigua and Grenada. But it's still, there's 2 programs. It's possible, and you can get passports. Again, taxation, is that an issue? These programs, except for the US and Canada, those 2, you do become tax resident. But the rest of them, you do not become tax residents. Is that what you want? Malta has a very, very lucrative tax non-dom program. Everybody talks about the UK non-dom program that's being dissolved. Well, the Malta program is everything the UK program was and better. Cyprus has a non-dom program. Greece has a flat 100,000 euro a year tax. I mean, does taxation matter to you? Let's talk. Tell me about that. So these are things that will help us in the very first consultation identify what is the best program for you. Now, like I said, here's some other questions. Not as often I get these, but they're still legitimate questions. Again, banned nationalities. Russians are banned in a lot of countries, but not Portugal. We can work with Portugal, Greece, Latvia, Turkey, US, Canada, Vanuatu. Greece, especially Russians with a second passport sometimes, but we can work it. Can you add more than one spouse? Only UAE, up to 4. You need a marriage license for each one. Step parents. If the program allows parents, and if they legally adopted you, no problem. What if I get married or have a baby? Don't worry, we can add them. If you get divorced, if the main applicant passes away or children become adults, this is a very, very tough question. This requires a consultation because it's very specific to the program and where you're at in the program. Can you use crypto? No, you cannot. We're not there yet. We're at least a year and a half, 2 years away from that, if it happens, but you cannot use crypto now. Can someone else pay for me? Some programs do allow sponsors. This requires a consultation, but it could be possible. Again, banned nationalities. The only program that is open to everybody is the US EB-5. US EB-5 has no banned nationalities. You can be North Korean and do the US EB-5. Due diligence, we talked about it earlier. Sanctions, all that kind of stuff gets factored in. This is not sidestepping security in any way. So we're going to look at some program examples right now. Again, this is about creating a real-world Plan B that functions for your family as you need it to, when you need it to. And we're going to go over some of the most popular programs and the most popular investments, what they look like right now. So right now for Portugal, We are the #1 Portugal Golden Visa agent, and we do have exclusive Portugal Golden Visa options. And this is one of them. The Navigator is a Portuguese hospitality company, very, very big in Portugal. This is one of their hotels, Salacqua. It's in the south, in the Algarve. This will allow you to have an out-of-pocket of $399. Why $399? Because there's not going to be no dividends here. There's not going to be any annual returns. You're going to get everything up front. So you're going to get you're going to get 6 years of returns up front. Comes out to 101. So we're going to send 101 to your bank account. You're going to send the full 500 to the Portugal bank account, and that's going to satisfy your 500 required investment for Portugal. With this program, you're going to get the 100 up front. You're going to get 500 back in year 6. That's your buyout. You're done. You need to switch to citizenship in year 5. You're going to get your buyback in year 6. You move on with your life as a citizen of the EU now. You do get 6 weeks a year stay here, 3 in season, 3 out of season. And you can use those stays for your 7 days a year as required by the Portugal Golden Visa. Again, this is exclusive to us. This is also one of the programs where we can connect you with a loan on a 50,000 euro loan. Not the full amount, but a 50,000 euro. And that'll bring you down to 349 plus the 50,000 loan plus the 101 up front. That loan is payable at almost 7,000 a year, or 7,000 a quarter. I'm sorry. Again, this is an exclusive option only through me. The United States EB5 requires 800,000, but we have 2 options here. As you can see here, energy sector, West Texas oil fields. It is rural. This is a 9-month turnaround. You can be in the United States 9 months after this application is filed. This is 800 in, 3.5 years later, you get 1 million back. $400,000 down. The other 400,000 is 2 payments over the next couple months. Some flexibility with how those payments can be done, but they do need to be done in the first year. Again, this is rural. This is a 9 to 12 month application approval. This is the loan I was telling you about earlier. This is a Las Vegas company, well established. This is actually phase 2 of their facility. They've already expanded worldwide and all that. This is 400,000 down, and then this loan here, 400,000. We can put you in touch with this loan here. I can give you the whole 60-month payment schedule if you want to see it. This is a typical EB5 program. Over 6,000 people have been approved for this program. Over 3,000 of them are already returning dividends. This is a very, very standard EB5 yield, 0.25. Nothing great here. What's great about this is it's 400 in, plus you can leverage this loan for 400, pay it off at any time you want in the 5 years, no penalty. And this will be around that 12 to 16-month approval. Again, same kits. The second most powerful passport you can acquire through investment. This is a very special public benefit option that they have. It's for expanding the airport because tourism is big in the Caribbean and they need this airport expanded. This the public benefit option, you can do 250,000 as a donation also. This is still kind of a donation. It's going into the airport expansion. But what they are offering on this is an well, I don't want to say expedited, a faster approval cycle. They're saying 6 to 8 months you can get approved, whereas the regular donation is going to be around the 12 to 14, 12 to 16 months. St. Kitts, second most powerful passport you can get to investment. Grenada, another very powerful passport you can get through investment. This is that hotel shares option I was telling you about before. There's only 2. Oh, let's talk about Dominica first. There's only 2 hotel shares that have proven historically and factually to be providing reliable dividends. Dominica and Grenada. Only these 2. Dominica is a Relais Chateau hotel. It is a 6-star hotel. It has been around for years. It has won numerous awards. It is Secret Bay. You can research it online. We can offer you the opportunity to get hotel shares in this off. And this has been paying reliably and consistently since 2019. Okay. The only other one, this is Dominica. Okay. The only other one is Grenada. This one here is a intercontinental hotel, but this project has already built a Park Hyatt, which is open and running and paying. another intercontinental, open and running and paying, and a Six Senses, open and running and paying. This is their newest one that you can now invest in. It's another intercontinental. It's in Grenada, but you can do the investment here for 235. That's the donation. 270 is the hotel shares. This one, I say paying out. I want to be clear about this. Once this hotel opens, you get a kickback of 50,000 is what you get here. So you'll put 270 in, and you'll get 50,000 payment back when the hotel opens, which will bring you down to 220, which is below the, as you can see, which is below the donation cost here. What's important about Grenada is is Grenada citizenship holders, Grenada passport holders are eligible for the U.S. E2 visa program, but you need a Grenada address to do the E2 program with your Grenada passport. This project can give you a permanent address, that physical address. Again, we mentioned Greece. Greece has a tier one opportunity, 250,000. Now, again, as I stated, that is the minimum investment of the real estate. Everything in this $250,000 euro range is going to be not traditional home ownership. It's going to be passive income. You're owning the property, but it's got to be rented on the local rental market. This is one of the largest projects they have right now. Fully furnished units, 10 years of property management, 10 years guaranteed of ROI. You're going to get 7,500 euros back each year guaranteed. But if the 3% is more than that, you're going to get the 3%. But you're guaranteed the 7,500. This is scheduled to open in middle of 2027. It's got 3 different units: studios, which is 265, 1 bedrooms, which is 270. It has this thing called twin units, which is like it's like a 1 bedroom that's split in half to make 2 dorms out of, 2 university dorms, because there's a lot of universities in this area, and university rental market is really big in Athens. So this is being built to kind of leverage on that. But you can get the twin units for 250, 1 bedrooms for 270. This is one of the most popular tier one 250 euro range investment in Greece right now. Latvia, the newest kid on the block. The fastest golden visa, 3 months approval. The cheapest EU golden visa, only 100,000 euro investment. I call this the ETIAS safety blanket because if you remember, I said earlier that if you submit your application for Portugal and then you get your biometric schedule, if ETIAS is implemented in there, you're going to need ETIAS approval to make that. However, for an extra 100,000, you do the Latvia program. In 3 months, you'll have approval for Latvia. Then when the Portugal date comes up, no worries. You're free to enter the EU at will thanks to your Latvia residency. It's a 100,000 euro investment. Year 5, you get the 100,000 back. So it is a sound and solid ETIS safety blanket. It'll get you in 3 months, it'll approved in 3 months, and then you won't have to worry about that ETIS approval for whatever biometric appointment you have to for one of the other programs, which are going to take longer than 3 months. Again, fastest and cheapest in the EU. It's 5-year residency, renewable for 5 years, but as soon as you as soon as you implement your buyback, you lose the residency. That's very important. That's why I say pair it with another program to give you that safety blanket. And I have 2 power plays for you guys. This is power play number 1. I call this the global citizenship power play. This is 3 passports, 5 years. You can't beat this price, in my opinion. My personal opinion. Think of what you want. St. Kitts Airport, 250,000. Portugal, Salacqua, 399,000. You're going to be 665 approximate because we got currency conversions here. Approximately 665,000 in. Portugal year 6 buyback, 500,000 euros, approximately $520. Ultimately, your out of cost investment, ultimately, this is approximate, by the way, because of currency conversion. And again, dependence and all that kind of thing. But ultimately, 145,000, you're going to have 3 passports. Your native passport, the Portuguese passport, because you're going to do years 5 citizenship in Portugal, in the St. Kitts passport. And, 5 passports, 3 years, those passports are going to give you whatever visa-free travel you currently have, plus the residency rights in the EU, plus CARICOM residency privileges, access to China, access to Russia, access to Brazil, access to South Korea. Just, you're gonna have 3 identity documents, you're gonna have 3, and you're gonna have, it's a power play. It's gonna ultimately cost you around $150,000. Again, depends upon dependents, but major power play for a global citizenship. However, we have the ETIS safe play power play, which I like to call it. It's Latvia and Portugal together. Okay, so you have the $399 for Slovakia in Portugal, you have the $100,000 for Latvia. Okay, you're going to put them together. Ultimately, out of pocket, you're going to be around $545,000. Again, I'm converting it to dollars, but it would be 499,000 euros. Okay, you're going to do Portugal citizenship in year 5. You're going to make that transition. You're going to get Latvia buyback 100,000 in year 5, Portugal buyback 500,000 in year 6. That's going to give you 600,000 euros buyback. You're going to put 499,000 investment in. You're going to get 600,000 back. That's going to put you 110 to the good. That's going to cover all your other costs with, for all those other things. Because, like I said, the residency renewals are on you. You got to pay those every 2 years. The dependents are going to change the cost and things like that. But this just gives you an idea of how you can pair these programs together to give you the best possible outcome, the most leverage, capitalize on maximizing your dollar, so to speak. And this will get you that ETIS safe play, because Latvia will be approved in 3 months. So do the Latvia, get that approval. You'll have that approval for 5 years. You'll have it for 10 years if you need it, because Latvia is renewable for 5 years. So you can have it up to 10 years. Then you can do your Portugal, and then you'll have that ETIAS exemption to go make that biometric form. You do not have to worry about getting a glitch or a bug on a new system that's going to deny you. This removes that. So this is unparalleled cost for getting that EU security blanket. Again, the UAE, we do the UAE Gold Visa. It's not really, because of the UAE lifestyle, it's not really a solution for everybody. But if you're a serious real estate investor, then Dubai and Abu Dhabi, especially, but Dubai, is something that all genuine, sophisticated real estate investors know about and are thinking about. We have very privileged access. Well, I don't need to say very. We have privileged access to all these developers. And we come out with, as you can see here, this little brochure. It's 3 to 4 pages long. We update this every month or so. This gives you an idea of what that looks like. As you can see at the bottom, it says payment plan. That's, if you remember earlier, I was talking about the UAE with financing. That's what I was talking about. So, some of these will give you like 80% down, 20% after. Some of them are 65-35, 50-50. It just varies with each developer, with each project. But that's the financing I was talking about with the EU or with the UAE. Each program is a little bit different. We offer Archway is our subsidiary, so like Holborn Pass is exclusively our global citizen stuff solutions. Archway is our UAE real estate, and you can do real estate in the UAE with or without the golden visa. You don't need to do the golden visa if you don't want to. It's nice to add it on so you have it. But if you just want to buy, if you just want to invest in real estate in the UAE, we can do off-plan, on-market, standalone with the golden visa. Any developer that has any kind of prestige or reputation in the UAE, we can get you with that. And again, this is the UAE, so there's no budget. It can go to the roof here. This is me, but before we talk about me, I do got to show you this screen here. This is the disclaimer, all the stuff that you need to know. Pause it to read it. And again, this is me again. I'm Julian. I'm a global citizen. I live this life every day of my life, travel with multiple passports, live in multiple residencies. These are not just programs, these are real life power plays to me. And that's what I try to connect my clients with, is what I live personally and professionally all the time. That's why I say make the world your plan B, because that's what these programs genuinely do. This is my email. Please send me an email, ask for a free consultation, If you've seen it here, you get a free consultation. This is my Instagram, this is my Substack, and my website. This scan here takes you to my LinkedIn page, which will connect you with all this information. And I do put out a newsletter on LinkedIn called Be the High Grind, Make the world your plan B. Comes out twice a month. It's got some very interesting things on it. I have been answering the questions as we've gone along, so there's no unanswered questions to go for at this time, which is good because by doing that, I ran over a little bit long. We're a little bit over now. But like I said, everyone who's watching this, free consultation, send me an email at that email address. Let me know what you're interested in, what program, or just in general, and you have a free consultation waiting, and we will begin the process from there. And that's how it goes, guys. And thank you for joining me tonight. Have a great day, rest of the day, evening, wherever you're at. I try to do a webinar once a month, but I am available through email, and you can message me on LinkedIn as well at any time. And that's that. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, guys. And that's that. Thank you.